Fans, we're back. Just got off from Student Council President Brandon Johnson. He said that the parade would be at 2 o'clock. It'd be really awesome if you could all come down and attend.
You have his email address again?
I have the email address for the Student Council.
Yeah, I'm assuming that's him since he posted.
Yeah. It's Campbell County, STUCO, all one word, at gmail.com. That's how you get in touch with him or Miss Ralston or another representative of the Student Council about doing the parade.
Shoot an email, get in the parade, drive your vehicle,
Throw out candy,
throw rocks at people.
maybe bacon,
If you throw bacon out, I'm going to jump out of our vehicle,
and into your
get your bacon, and run back to our vehicle and eat.
Sounds like a cromulent plan.
Also, somebody should probably, we were talking about this beforehand, somebody should have and be serving foot-long corn dogs and funnel cakes.
That would be for the best. That would make a much better parade if there was like a 8-foot-long corn dog vendor.
Yes.
I may be a 8-foot-long corn dog vendor. I would just need all
Yes, you need
I
all
would
your
make no
money.
money.
But Charlie Sheen would consider that to be the maybe for sure. Now, on the college front, first off, like I said, University of the Cumberlands, 2-0, got a district, region, conference, whatever they call it, win this week over the University of Virginia at Wise. Philip Wells, your starting quarterback, Campbell County and Jacksboro alumni, running that option well.
It's good to see, local kids going to the next level and doing well.
Of course, there's several other. His brother Steven's there.
And Troy's.
Troy Arnold's there. Keenan Evans is there.
Yeah. So.
It's a good place for Campbell County kids to end up and do well at.
Brittany Bostic cheers them on every week.
A lot of scholarship opportunities coming out of Cumberland.
Of course, fans, we've got a lot of college action. Of course, the University of Tennessee yesterday. Pretty good win over Cincinnati. The running game, still a little suspect.
Yeah, I'm still worried about the running game. Obviously, I have concerns still about the defense. They were in good positions yesterday for the most part. A couple of times they got out of position and had some players on the wrong side of the field. They're very young. Our front seven is just not that dominating. And when you multiply that by not tackling, like Darryl Vereen on that long touchdown run, 65-yarder in the second and third play of the game, if he just grabs the guy or legs, he goes for his legs, that's a 2-yard gain, it's over. But he tried to put a big kill shot on the guy with his shoulder pad, and the guy just bounced off and kept running. You can't do that.
People who don't form tackle irritate me.
It's grab the guy and wrap him up.
You learn the basics for a reason.
As the game wore on, the defense played better and better. Had some big fourth down stands that were really momentum killers for Cincinnati. And Cincinnati got a good offense. They scored. They went 4-8 last year, but they scored like crazy last year. And they scored 72 points in their opener and didn't even have to punt in the opener. And granted, it was against Austin Peay, but
That's still 72 points against somebody.
they have been able to score for years on end now. That's not changed. Their defense has gotten worse. And, Brady just crushed their soul yesterday. If you can throw the ball like that, you don't have to worry so much about the running game. It's nice to have it. Against Florida is better in every phase of the game on offense and defense and special teams in Cincinnati, and not by a small margin either.
Florida's an SEC school.
Cincinnati has comparable skill players, comparable quarterback, wide receiver, and running backs. But the offensive line at Florida's is much, much better. Tight end, Florida's much, much better. Depth on offense, Florida's much, much better.
I imagine depth in general, Florida's much better.
Florida's front seven on defense, much, much better. Florida's secondary, a whole lot better. A whole lot better. It will take a major effort in the swamp this week for Tennessee to compete with and beat Florida. I think they're capable of it. If they can pass protect for Bray, it's going to be hard. He's not going to look like he did this week against Cincinnati, standing back there with all day to throw. If Bray can keep his composure, if our receivers, keep playing as well as they have, Justin Hunter, he catches everything that's around him.
Oh yeah, he's a phenom.
Even Saturday, he broke university records.
You know, I was a little upset with what's our other top receiver? I'm drawing a blank.
Derek Rogers.
Yeah, Derek Rogers yesterday. He had a great game, but just for a few minutes I got to sit with him because Bray threw him a pass over the middle. It was like 3rd and 10, one of the few third downs we got in. It would have been a first down at about the 5-yard line, but there were two guys on either side of him, and he closed down the alligator on him, didn't even try for the catch. But he made up for it a few minutes later with that play in the end zone where he knew he was going to get crushed, and he just stood there and took both hits, knocked his helmet off and everything, came up with the touchdown, came up smiling. So that redeemed that for me. I was a little upset to see him alligator. Because Derek's a big guy.
Right.
He's like 6'3" and 230. He's built like Terrell Owens. You know.
We had some good throws there tight end yesterday.
And the tight end game for UT is not one that we've seen in a while.
No, I was amazed. We've not saw tight end action like that since 2001 when Jason Witten's sophomore year when he had a big breakout and did so well. Mm-hmm. And I honestly believe that was mostly Casey Collison checking out to him, not what the coaches wanted, because the next year they shut it down, didn't throw to it. But you know, it's nice to see a tight end out there catching passes because he's a valuable weapon in that short pass.
Oh, absolutely.
And we simply used the tight end to be an extra blocker for years in the former. That was all the tight end did. He was a blocker, nothing else. Maybe catch. I think Rivera had 7 catches yesterday, and the tight end's got 9 or 10 passes in total. There have actually been years under Philip Fulmer where the tight end caught less than 10 passes. And that was like Peyton Manning and people playing quarterback even.
Yeah, I mean, why would you not utilize that weapon?
But, you know, Florida is going to be at all completely different level. First time we've been in a really hostile environment. You know, Bray.
There is no more hostile environment except for maybe Death Valley in the SEC.
Bray broke Peyton Manning's record of 8 consecutive games with 2 touchdown passes in a game. Manning had 7 his senior year. He has to keep that up. Until we can run the ball, we're going to have to throw it. You know, they say find something you can do well and do it a lot. If we can actually pass the ball against Florida, I think we have a chance. Right. I'm not sure that we can run the ball against them since we've not run against anybody yet. But, you know, maybe on the other hand, everybody, Cincinnati included, and Montana both, with Bray picking them apart, for the most part, still sold out to, try to stop the run. But they did go into some 3-man fronts later on that still didn't stop the pass because that's a terrible way to stop passes, in my opinion.
I agree.
You can always pick apart a prevent defense if you have a decent quarterback. But Florida's defensive line will get pushed against ours, and our passing game will have to speed up.
You know, other SEC games yesterday, there were a couple of exciting ones. I want to go ahead and thank Georgia for participating in this year's college football season. And I want to wish Mark Richt great luck on his job search.
You know, I thought that Georgia fans would be terribly upset with that. I read their message board last night, and most of them are pretty happy with how the game went.
Wow. I would never guess that.
Some of them were like, how far have we fallen when we're happy about a loss? But they were like, oh, we just love Mark Richt now. Because Georgia scored a lot of points. That's all they care about. They don't, in their mind, and many of them were just, they're like, well, South Carolina, we really beat you. You just happened to win on the scoreboard.
Hippies.
It was their mentality, simply because they scored a lot of points in South Carolina. They say they gift wrapped and gave the game to South Carolina. You're not, I guess that can be the case with any win. I mean, my God, South Carolina ran a fake punt, and they didn't run it for a first down. They ran it for a 65-yard touchdown, and Georgia missed 20 tackles on it.
Hippies.
And that's Georgia playing bad. Not Georgia playing good and giving the game away. That's South Carolina making a big play out of Georgia's mistakes.
It's like we said last night. As awful as Steve Spurrier was to UT, he's even worse to Georgia.
Yeah, he's even worse to Georgia. I think Georgia's beat Steve Spurrier about 3 times total in 20-something years of coaching.
Then you had the Auburn-Mississippi State game as the other game of note.
That was a big one for Mississippi State trying to establish itself. A big one for Auburn trying to prove that, hey, we've won 16 games in a row. You'd think we would at least be ranked. Mm-hmm. And, people were like, last week, Auburn, they did it with Cam Newton last year, and they're doing it again this year. Last year, they would give up 30 points, 35, 40 points a game, but they would score 45 or 50 or 60 points a game.
It's odd to me that, Auburn's not right. I mean, they're the returning champ.
People, I think, have a lot of ill will towards them over the Cam Newton. They're convinced Auburn was
Cheated to win.
Cheating to win, and I think they have a lot of ill. And it didn't help them any to come out and barely beat a pretty bad Utah State team. But that's what they did last year. Oregon, ironically, the most powerful offense they supposedly faced all season, was basically the only team that couldn't score on them last year.
That makes no sense either. I mean, Oregon had all the guns.
I mean, it's odd.
So they have those uniforms. You think just by Auburn's eyes bleeding, they'd be able to hit the score?
I would think so. But Auburn, it really, I'll never get what Dan Mullen was thinking, Mississippi State's coach. You have 10 seconds left, and you're at second down and one, or second down and go from the one. You always, 100% of the time, literally, unless for some reason the defensive line doesn't line up in front of your quarterback, you throw the ball in that situation. Because even if your throw doesn't work, you're going to get another play with 3 or 4 seconds to go. You always throw the ball there. He ran the option, and the quarterback didn't even pitch it.
The option is, in that situation, is a play almost guaranteed not to stop the clock.
Yeah, well, I mean, at that point, it's not going to stop the clock. The option would never stop the clock. Because if you pitch it backwards, you fumble. Mm-hmm. But, he ran the ball for some reason. I don't know why. And time ticked away when the quarterback got tackled, and that was the end. But you give yourself as many opportunities to win as you can, always. So you always throw in that situation. The other baffling thing, they had ran the shotgun all day. And for some reason, they lined up under center for that option play. And it took us a long time for the play to develop. I guess, basically the quarterback had when he knew he was going to run it, he was, snap the ball, and he was ready to take off and get a good head of steam up. This time he didn't. It was just slow developing, curl out play, and Auburn stopped it when they had to. So, Mississippi State lost, bad coaching move. And that sets them back in the West already. They were trying to finish, second, third in the West, but now it's going to be Alabama, LSU, and
Arkansas
and Auburn may all be ahead of them again, even though you probably put Mississippi State in the East, which is strange to say. They'd probably finish first or second. It went from basically 1992 to probably 2005 or 6 for the most part. The best team was always in the East, and the best 3 or 4 teams were usually in the East. But now it's switched around in the West. Seems to be the best for now.
The other really, big game, there was another just awful defensive showing by both Notre Dame and Michigan.
Right. And it's Notre Dame and Michigan, so it's getting a lot of hype as being one of these greatest game ever type games. And it really, frankly, I would have puked if I was a fan of either team.
It was pretty bad.
It was terrible to watch.
I mean,
we watched it out of morbid curiosity more than anything.
I hate playing prevent defense. And you would think that when one coach watches the other coach give up immediate touchdowns, and then another one, and then another one, back and forth like that, they maybe would play their base defense if they'd stop people the whole game with. The game was in the 20s. The entire game, and then in the last 3 minutes, each team scores several touchdowns. I mean, it was a back and forth game. It's the kind of game everybody says, well, that's a classic. It was a terrible defense. Neither team has a good defense at all. Notre Dame doesn't even have a good offense.
For us, those homemade tater skins
were the highlights of that
They
game.
made the difference.
Yeah, I really love those.
We've got some NFL action that has happened already today. Of course, Thursday night we had a game.
That was a pretty big game Thursday night. Another one where not a whole lot of defense was being played. Those two teams had powerful offenses.
And let's give the folks at Alcoa some credit. They have a lot to be proud of in that game.
Yeah, Randall Cobb, 108-yard kickoff return, tied for the think second longest. I think somebody said they've been 109.
I think Deion Sanders maybe even had 109 yards.
Big kickoff return, and he also caught a pass. You know, he's a humble guy, and he came out after the game and said, you know, that I scored 2 touchdowns on 2 mistakes I made. I got to learn to do better because he ran the wrong route on the touchdown pass that he caught, and he said he knew better than to take the kickoff out of the end zone. He doesn't really know why he did it. You know, the next kickoff he fielded in the end zone, he just took a knee.
And how many NFL players would say that?
You would not find many players that would ever say that. I mean, he's just a humble, really good kid. I hate that he didn't come to Tennessee.
I do too. Thank you, Fatty Phil Fulmer. Indeed. You know, anytime you can, you know you're talented, you go to Kentucky and still get drafted.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously.
You know, who knows what'll happen the rest of the year, but, you know, this week, I think he may be the player of the week, basically.
Oh, yeah.
But frankly, so far through the 4:30-ish games ending, the 1 to 4:30 slot, a bunch of clunkers.
Yeah.
It was the Tennessee Jacksonville game was playing during lunch.
Any Titans fans missing Jeff Fisher yet?
It wasn't that good.
The other game on TV here, if you have cable, was the Bears-Falcons, and the Bears owned Atlanta.
It was a blowout day. I thought the best game of the day would be Pittsburgh-Baltimore. Baltimore crushed Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh had 7 turnovers, which makes me pretty happy because I hate Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh just got crushed. The Philadelphia-St. Louis game, you know, they're picked, basically St. Louis picked to win the NFC West. Philadelphia, of course, with their dream team. They struggled for a lot of the day and then pulled away at the end and won 31-13 over St. Louis. Vic, he was 14 of 32, looked kind of bad. But, you know, it's like somebody pointed out on the show, the Eagles are a bunch of athletes playing football instead of a football team right now. We'll see if they can get made to a team. I hope not. Don't like them.
No, I hate them. They're my least favorite team.
So, you know, Bears-Falcons was supposed to be a good game. Like Patrick said, it was a blowout.
The Texans, not surprisingly, annihilated the Peyton Manning.
At one time, they were down 34-0. I believe I heard that they said it was the largest deficit the Colts have ever had in the regular season game.
Wow. I mean, wonder how big Peyton Manning is to that team? How about today? And
you know,
yet Peyton's potentially done.
They're going to go from probably a 12-win team, maybe 13 wins, to a 2 or 3 win team.
You know what? The one thing that does is gives them a good draft pick.
Yeah. You know, I feel if I were the Colts, there's probably, unless he just wanted to for some reason, there's probably no way I would bring Manning back in 3 or 4 months.
No.
You're not going to be in playoff contention. There's no upside to it.
And if
I would put him on injured reserve right now. And that just takes him coming back out of the question.
Yeah, from what I understand, he's hurt pretty bad still at this point.
Well, he had his 3rd neck surgery on Thursday.
Yeah. From what I understand, he had a cervical fusion.
And you know, actually someone said that's called a career extender when it's healed. They said that your spine actually
it's stronger than ever.
It gets better than ever, but it takes a while to heal. And there's no point in bringing him, you know, unless he just wants to because, you know, he's very competitive. The Colts will probably gain nothing but a worse draft slot by bringing him back.
Right. I mean, you know, I'm not saying you let him throw every game, but at this point, you know, you are usually picking the bottom 5. You might be picking the top 5 this time around.
Yeah. I don't think he's going to be throwing the game necessarily. I think they're going to be that bad.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean,
the Texans. I admit the Texans are a good team, and I would not have been surprised if they'd won the division this year, even with Manning healthy. But every year they say that before.
No.
Aaron Foster didn't play for the Texans today. He's hurt too.
Yeah, I was on some sports talk radio this morning. Aaron Foster has his own show on Yahoo Sports Radio. You can actually, it's a podcast. You can listen to it anytime. But they were playing highlights of it today on the Sports Animal, and he was talking about Peyton Manning and how his daughter is such a huge Peyton Manning fan. Even when the Colts play the Texans, she pulls for the Colts. He said that he introduced him and his daughter, and that Peyton was just so good to her, it made such an impression on her that she's a huge Peyton Manning fan.
Well, that's about the way he is with everybody.
You know, I've never got to personally meet him, but everyone that I know that have met him just says he's just an awesome person.
Literally, my fondest memory at UT was sitting downstairs eating lunch in the bowling alley / arcade, skipping some classes. When he made the announcement that he was coming back, I'll never forget that. I mean, that a lot of people are like, I don't understand just because Peyton Manning plays for the Colts, why all UT fans have to love him. That's why.
I like all Tennessee players.
Oh, I do too.
I mean, I'm glad I wish all of them could do well.
Yeah.
Very thrilled that Arian Foster
Like to see him all.
is getting to play.
We need more visible people in the NFL. It helps the university. It helps our football program. You know, it's we pretty much had the best quarterback and the best running back in the league most years for the last 15 years because of Peyton Manning and guys like Travis Henry and Jamal Lewis.
And Arian Foster. I mean, it's, we've had some great receivers in the NFL. We've had some great linebackers in the NFL.
We always have a few great defensive linemen, offensive linemen.
Of course, Eric Berry had a pretty darn good rookie year as a DB.
A lot of, it just helps to have players up there and being visible. Helps your recruiting. It's going to help Dilly get back on track. Which, it looks like he's getting there. It's the first time 2-0 since 2006. For something that's that long, we went into the Florida game without a loss.
That blew my mind when we talked about that last night.
Yeah.
Now, one time we went on a stretch where we were undefeated going to the Florida game for about 10 or 11 years in a row. We got the late games in the NFL tonight. Hopefully the Dallas can beat the Jets. I'm not sure what to think of Dallas yet for the year. I hate the Jets. I don't like any of those NFC or AFC Eastern teams. Jets, Dolphins, Patriots. Don't hate them as bad as I hate Pittsburgh or some of the NFC East teams, or San Francisco. But I have a pretty good dislike for it. But hopefully the games going now and later tonight are better than the ones so far.
Plus, there's 2 Monday night games.
I mean, it was kind of not a good game. At least the Titans game was close with Jacksonville.
Yeah.
16-14. It wasn't one of these 34-7 blowouts. We had so many up to there, 34, 31-13, all those kinds of scores, which are rare for NFL games. You don't see many. Detroit had a pretty good game with Tampa Bay, 127-20. Wasn't on TV. You watch. I had DirecTV or Dish Network Red Zone channels on right now.
Oh yeah. That's the best way to watch football out there if there's not a game on you really care about.
So I was watching some of those on the Red Zone channel. Detroit won. Detroit may be pretty good this year, but they're in such a stacked division. They're just in a bad spot because Chicago and Green Bay are in there with them. They're really good. I can't remember who all else was going today. It was a bunch of clunker games early though, for the most part.
Oh yeah.
After that super exciting game in the first season opener with New Orleans and that thing. So hopefully Dallas can pull it off tonight. Hopefully Tennessee can pull it off against Florida the next Saturday. So it's just a huge game. If we win that game, I pointed out earlier in Vol, if we could win that game, especially with Georgia's struggles now, we could be going, I think we play LSU after Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
We'd be looking at 5-0, probably ranked in the top 15.
That would be
That'd
huge.
be awesome.
Heading into a big showdown at home against a top 5 LSU team. And we have a lot of success against LSU, regardless of how good LSU may be.
We, by all rights, should have beat them last year.
We actually sort of did beat them on the field last year. But, I mean, it got all the way back to 1958 when LSU was ranked number 1 in the country. Or 1959. They won the 1958 National Championship, I believe it was. They were ranked number 1 in 1959. Billy Cannon, the Heisman Trophy winner, one made the movie about, everybody's All-American. Rolled into Tennessee, we beat them 14-13. Stuff Billy Cannon at the goal line. Wow. Ever since then, LSU has struggled. At one point, LSU was something like, I think even now they're maybe 6 or 7-21 or something against Tennessee.
And this is an LSU team that's got national titles.
Very disparate record, we dominated the series. We've even had some wins in recent years. I mean, they really got us and stuck it to us in that championship game. But we've also had some teams that beat their really good teams. this is last year we handled it and we shouldn't have. It's the same with Georgia, but we managed to somehow beat Georgia a lot, despite what would appear to be a much better Georgia team.
So fans, this week should be an excellent week in sports.
It's one of the 2 big years of the season for football.
Oh yeah.
Or big weeks of the season for football.
I mean, we've got
Florida and Alabama are
we've got Florida at Tennessee. You've got Campbell County's homecoming. You got a homecoming parade. You've got what should be La Follett's homecoming. Fans, get out to these games. Get out to the Jellicoe game. You know, if you're a Jacksboro fan, get on the road with Jacksboro. Fans, we're gonna get out of here. We're gonna upload this, and we will see you next week on Sports Chat, and we'll see you at the games.